Michael Cleveland benefit, you can do so very easily. Just show up at the South Tides parking lot. For all you non-military folks, you know where Patrick Air Force Base is. That great big huge building that faces the ocean, that's AFTAC. Across from the street there on A1A is what they call the Tides Co-Located Club. Used to be the NCO Club for your old timers. Now it's used for both purposes. Well, there's a big parking lot on the south side. That's where we're going to be doing the registering, and we're going to take off from there. If you get there by 10 o'clock, you'll be good. Okay, we're going to go kickstands up. You don't have to be on a motorcycle. You can take your car, and we encourage you all. Load the entire family into the car, right, Glenn?
Absolutely, and if those of you are still scratching your head as to what ABTAC is, that's the building on the west side of the beach there that has all the windows boarded up since 9/11, and it is directly across from the Non-Commissioned Officers Club, and ABTAC stands for Air Force Technical Applications Center.
Give them a little, since you're talking about it, what's a little insight? What happens at AFTAC?
ABTAC basically monitors use of nuclear weapons throughout the world.
Very technical issue and very secretive too. They're ones that are getting the brand new building on base. So folks, it looks like there's going to be no base realignment and closure here at Patrick for at least some time.
I wouldn't think so, because ABTAC is a one-of-a-kind Department of Defense facility. And what I just told you about what they do over there, when I was on active duty, I couldn't have even told you that. So.
The bottom line is, folks, we want you to come out and want you to tell your neighbors, your fellow churchgoers, your co-workers, anybody and everybody you know, that we've got to support the Tech Sergeant Michael Cleveland family. He's been inalterably, well, his life's different than it will ever have been in the past. He's paralyzed from the chest down because of a motorcycle accident. No wrongdoing on his part. Okay? He's over in Tampa right now at the James Haley Polytrauma Clinic getting rehab, but his wife is active duty here. They've got 2 small kids, and if you want to have some fun and show you do more than put a bumper sticker on your car saying you support the troops, then come out, all right? 10 a.m. we're going to be assembling at the Tides Club. If you're in your car or your motorcycle, we're going to be driving south on A1A right past the very spot where the accident took place. We're going to take a right. Okay, we're going to go west on the Pineda.
Well, your other right.
We can't go east on the Pineda. We're going to go over the Pineda, hit the interstate, right down to Palm Bay at the Space Coast Harley Shop, where we're going to have a lot of fun. And guess what? We have another special guest with us here, and that's my segue. Come out to the Tech Sergeant Michael Cleveland benefit and meet some of our wonderful sponsors, which one of them is the Sanchez Law Firm, and a representative from that firm is with us today. He's well, I'll let him say. Rolando, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. I am a naval reservist. I joined the Navy back in 2008. I remember one of our chiefs telling us that we were insane because we joined at the height of a war on all volunteer service. After I joined the Navy, I decided to go to law school. I am an immigrant. I came from Venezuela, and through this process, it was crazy going to law school and trying to meet my military duties. Eventually,
well, back up. You came from Venezuela. When did you do that? How old were you?
I came from Venezuela when I was 13 years old. I'm 35 years old today. It took me roughly 16 years to get my green card.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yes, it is. It is a very long time. It was very frustrating at times.
But you did it the right way.
Well, yes. In the process, it's a very complex area of law. I got to the front of the line twice, only to get sent back to the back of the line due to archaic operations of immigration law. It was no fault of my own that I came here when I was 13. I was following my parents, and yet I aged out. Oh my God! And that threw me for another 8 years. So that was.
So by the time your number came up, they said, "Oh, you're too old now. You have to go back to the end of the line."
Correct.
Oh my!
Wow, that's bureaucracy at its best, or worst.
But the best thing though is that it created a drive inside of me, and I did not ever want to see anyone go through what I went through, and that's why I did 2 things. One, in right around May of 2004, one of my best friends was killed in Afghanistan.
So he was in the military and he was killed in action.
Right. And as soon as I got my green card, 3 days later, I had joined the United States Navy. I mean, this is after some discussion with my wife. No offense to the Army, but she didn't want me joining the Army.
She thought you'd be safer in the Navy.
Right.
Mhm.
If there's ever such a thing.
Exactly.
And I.
But you enlisted.
Well,
You'd already had your undergrad.
Oh, absolutely. See, during those 16 years, I wasn't just sitting around. I was going to school. I obtained a bachelor's in biotechnology. I volunteer, help my family. Unfortunately, not having your papers seriously limits you, but that drove me to have a great work ethic, but more importantly, to help those. Okay, and so with that, as I was telling you, the process is very complex. I joined and I obtained my citizenship. President Bush in 2001, following the 9/11 attacks, said that anyone that joins the military with 1 day of honorable service, it's eligible for citizenship. I obtained my citizenship in December of 2008.
Good for you.
Yeah, great.
And following that, obviously, even though I was enlisted and I had a bachelor's degree, I was not a citizen. So it was not until I had obtained my citizenship that I will be eligible to even apply for officer candidate school. I was very engrossed in law school. I was busy with law school. So things got miscommunicated. Long story short, I deploy.
You deployed to where?
Afghanistan.
Panama City, Florida?
No, it was no picnic. Exactly a year and a day today,
Wow.
I landed in Afghanistan in Bagram Air Base.
As a Navy personnel?
Yes, there's a strong contingent of Navy personnel in Afghanistan.
And Glenn, I think the general public doesn't understand that. Navy's not just on the waterways.
Well, yeah, and that's the same as the Air Force. You know, the Air Force may fly planes from bases outside of of Afghanistan now, but there's always a possibility they might have to make an emergency landing or something, and they got a whole team sitting at the various air bases of on the ground PCS, permanent change of station people in country to support those kind of things. So all branches of the military are represented on the ground in Afghanistan as it
And that was
stands
your
today.
experience, Rolando?
Absolutely. I ran into personnel from the Coast Guard, Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, and every federal agency you can possibly imagine.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's there because it's not just fighting. It's about bullets. It's about doing many things, helping the sailors and soldiers and Marines that are on the ground with everything. Life continues back in the States. That's what people do not realize. So we have to be able, as a service, to provide those services to our servicemen while they're overseas.
But Rolando, you made a good point. I want to touch on it a moment longer. Just because you're maybe a supply clerk or a logistics readiness, whatever your MOS or AFSC may be, once you're in theater, you got a target. We talked about this before the program. You got a target on your back.
And that's true. There's always attacks. There's the enemy. It's always firing mortars. Whenever they can, they will find a way to kill you. You're always vigilant. In fact, a few weeks after I left, maybe about a month and a half after I left, 4 individuals were killed in Bagram due to mortar rounds. So there's no such thing as a front line or a safety net. Once you're in Afghanistan, you
better watch your back and your buddy's back.
Yeah,
exactly. You're always watching your 6.
That's kind of no different than Vietnam was, except I think there's a higher use of these improvised explosive devices to blow people up while they're on the roadways than there was in Vietnam. But I mean, getting incoming mortar attacks and rocket attacks and all those kinds of things, we had plenty of that in Vietnam, but we didn't have the worry about being blown up driving vehicles down the road, at least not to the extent it is nowadays.
Well, and one of our other concerns was what they call green on blue attacks.
Tell us about that.
And essentially, we always have to be on the lookout for the behavior of local nationals. You have to be vigilant because some of it's due to cultural differences. Some of it is because they might get blackmail. I mean, some of this Afghan national members of the ANA, Afghanistan National Army, they get blackmailed. They are told that if you don't kill Americans, we're going to decapitate everyone in your family, and you're going to watch it.
Well, that's the way terrorism works, unfortunately, and that's working against us. And there's been many instances of that in the media, and for sure that's an excellent point to bring up. I guess the total point here is that it's very dangerous for everybody who's in theater, regardless of what their job is. They don't necessarily have to be a combat Marine or Army person out on the quote-unquote front lines, if there are such a thing in this conflict. It's just be in theater.
Right, and the other thing is that then the worry that as a veteran or as a reservist you have to contend with is our economy was in the shambles. So you're returning. Easily over half of the individuals in my unit did not have a job or were worried about their jobs. I was very fortunate that when I came, I had a job within 3 days with Cristina Sanchez. I think some of it comes because Cristina comes from a military family.
Tell us a little of her backstory. This
Sure.
is your employer. You're an associate with her law firm.
Correct. Cristina Sanchez, her father was an Army veteran, and he was also a POW. He volunteered to overthrow Castro, and he was caught in the Bay of Pigs, a fiasco. And that's not something that they talk readily about. God knows what he went through. He was engaged to a Navy gal. And then the attorney who was the firm prior to when I took whose spot I took, he's also an Army reservist.
So she's got a good appreciation of what our men and women in uniform go through when they try and reintegrate from military life back into civilian structure.
Absolutely. I always tell her that one of the biggest reasons that I can be grateful for is having met her, because I realized 3 days after I left active duty that I had a job. That's a huge burden. I have a 3-year-old son. I have a wife. And so how can you not worry when you have those obligations to take care of? And you come home and you find an employer, someone who never really met me, just saw my resume, an interview, and said, go ahead, I'll support you.
Outstanding. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the Sanchez law firm right now. What are your areas of specialty?
I specialize in immigration and real estate law, and I've taken over some of the civil litigation from Cristina because she's running for judge, so I'm just mostly concentrating on those aspects.
Say that again. Let's get a plug in for her.
Oh,
Since she's so supportive of the military and our veterans.
she's running for judge, for a circuit judge, and hopefully you guys will get to meet her soon.
Her dad's a POW. We got to have her on the program, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so that's a done deal.
I am one of the projects that we talked about off the air is that we're trying to get together a group of both civilian and private investors to come in and create what's called an EB5 regional center in Melbourne, in the area of the city of Palm Bay. If this project comes to fruition, it's going to allow foreign investors to come in and bring American dollars back to American soil. The trade-off is they will get their green card. But seriously, we need money. We need to...
Okay, but when you say foreign investors, you're talking about somebody with a $20 bill in their back pocket?
Oh, no. These are investments that they have to be at least $500,000.
So we're talking some real seed money.
And they have to create 10 jobs at a minimum.
And you mentioned this is the EBF program?
No, it's called the EB5.
What's that stand for?
It's what it is. It's an old program that there used to be that an investor had to bring in at least $1 million, but Congress saw that there's a lot of areas that they're rural. They do not have necessarily the lure of New York City or Miami or LA. So they lowered the investment threshold, but they added the caveat that the individual had to create 10 jobs in addition to the $500,000. It's some serious money. I mean, if this projects like this in other parts of the country are bringing in easily $20-30 million.
We could use that here in Brevard, right here on the Space Coast.
Absolutely.
Now you're spearheading this, the law firm. Who's really in charge of making this happen?
I'm making this happen. I'm talking to local leaders, and I am with local businessmen. We're putting together some committees so that we can. We've already met with foreign investors. They're interested. They think that the Brevard County area is perfect. We have the brain power, and real estate prices are great for them, and they like the community feel that you have here, the diversity.
Well, yeah, I think that anybody would agree that we have probably a hugely talented labor pool with the drawdown of space operations out at the Kennedy Space Center, and you know we got a bunch of unemployed rocket scientists running around for a general way to describe the situation of our labor pool. So yeah, bring them on.
Yeah, for sure. And Rolando, I just want to state again that your law firm is going to be supporting the Tech Sergeant Michael Cleveland benefit a week from today, folks. That's not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 21st. This benefit's going to go on from noon till whenever. And we want to invite you all. And Rolando, are you and your family going to be able to make it?
Absolutely, and we have volunteers already from our firm that we have solid commitments. More people coming out. We had a meeting about some of the events that we're supporting just last night, as a matter of fact, and yours was one of the ones where veterans, I have a soft spot being a veteran, so I pushed it, and we're advertising it, and we're going to, hopefully you guys are going to have a great event and help Tech Sergeant Beasley here.
Exactly, and folks, like I said, you get a chance to meet this wonderful man. He's a veteran. He's been combat deployed. He's got a family. He's here. He's looking to improve this community, and he's working for obviously a great boss in Christina Sanchez with her law firm. Rolando, thank you for spending a few minutes with us today on American Warrior Radio.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
You bet. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Glenn, again, another incredible example of our veterans coming into the neighborhood and doing good things.
Oh, absolutely, and so glad that he was able to get a job immediately.
Yeah, and that's
not, as he was saying, that's not the norm for veterans. Although I did read something yesterday that showed it's headed in the right direction, except for female veterans. That the unemployment rate for the younger veterans is coming down some from what it was a year ago.
Yeah, and you know what? The numbers ebb and flow, but they're mostly in the tank. I mean, we've got a higher rate of unemployment among our younger veterans, and even the older veterans are having trouble. Folks, I got to get this out to you. If you know any veteran between, what are the ages, 35 to 60 for the VRAP?
Yeah, for the VRAP program,
that's the
35 to 60.
Okay, Veterans Retraining Assistance Program. You have a deadline, all right? You're hearing this today, but you don't have but a couple weeks left to get involved in this program. October 1st is the statutory deadline for applications. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can go to the VA website, just in the little search box, type in VRAP.
Exactly.
Okay?
Well, that's
Victor, Romeo, Alpha, Papa.
Yeah. And that just go to their main website, like you're saying, www.va.gov. And up at the top, there'll be a little search box that says search, and type in Victor, Romeo, Alpha, Papa, and that'll bring you to all the information about the VRAP program. And that deadline is what again, Garen?
That is October 1st. It's well publicized and it's underutilized, this program. So if you want to get on board, find out details about that. You'll probably find some on AVET Project's Facebook page as well as our website, but you have to make the move. You have to get at it. I'm going to get a quick plug in here, folks, for our Honoring Our Veterans Cruise. This is from November 14th through the 17th. There's no time like the present to start planning, because the rates that our great folks at D&D Travel, it's owned by a reserve major in the Air Force.
Cool.
Yeah, she's a great gal. Her and her mom run this. They put some incredible rates together. There's still time for you to jump on board. We want all veterans and family members to come on for this cruise. AVET Project at the same time is holding simultaneously a PR&R, Project Recuperation and Reintegration Retreat. None of this would be possible without the generous support of Northrop Grumman and their grant. But I just want to tell you, get onto the website, avetproject.org. and check out it on the Facebook. There's plenty of flyers going out there. We've got to have donations to make this happen, folks. You know, sometimes we make an appeal over the line on the radio here for money, but folks, if you want to see veterans like Rolando and so many others, and the women that you mentioned that are having trouble reintegrating, get behind this. PR&R, Project Recuperation Reintegration. It's a change of venue for us. We're doing it on a cruise ship because guess what? We're actually saving some money. When we have the land-based retreats, it costs us over $800 a warrior. Here we're saving about $100 and some bucks, but hey, $100 is $100 per warrior.
Yeah, plus you're in a cruise environment, and that's probably a good positive help for the programs y'all put on with that. I know it's a very effective program.
Exactly. So, folks, I just want to share with you one last time, make plans next Saturday. WMEL is behind this. AVET Project is behind this. It's the Tech Sergeant Michael Cleveland benefit on the 21st, okay, at Space Coast Harley in Palm Bay. Check it out online. It's all the time we have today, folks. I'm so glad you joined us on American Warrior Radio. But as always, Glenn.
Well, don't forget, thank a vet, and we'll look forward to talking with you next week.